My name's Josh Snider. You're watching Thoughtful Discussions, and I'm here with.
Jon Hall.
And tell me a little bit about yourself. Oh, wait, hold on. Tell me everything you do. All of it.
Everything I do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on day one, I cried. I started out my professional career as a designer.
Okay.
Graduated from Edinburgh University, just south of Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
I went there because it was one of the top schools for art at that time. I didn't realize it was in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so I realized quickly you had to make friends and kind of be a part of the conversation in order to survive life.
Got you.
And so first day, kind of made a lot of friends and everything, kind of kept them throughout the whole time. And now
Cool.
I'm still friends with them today, 20 years later.
Amazing.
You know, and so started out as a design major. Everyone thought I was animation for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know why. To this day, I am not a great animator. I used to do Flash animation, and
Yeah.
I know I don't do that anymore
Okay.
for good reason.
Gotcha.
So, in terms of other stuff though, took all the other classes. You know, painting, photography. Never really thought anything. Didn't really think things about it.
Yeah.
It was designed the whole way. It was
Gotcha.
logos, typography. I love typography. Like type design is what gets me going right now.
Gotcha.
And then just kind of like did some things around town. You know, just graduated college. 4.5 years. I spent a half year getting a third minor, which I did not realize did not count toward my credits, and it wasn't recognized
Okay.
by the school. So I have an unaccredited psychology minor.
Oh, wow.
So
That could work to your advantage, though, right?
it has in the past.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know, we'll see what happens in the future with that kind of stuff. Though,
Sure.
but extra credits, extra money gone. Sorry,
Right.
Dad. So
Whoops.
yeah, I did pay for my master's degree classes. So
Wow.
I'm paying that off right now, and we'll be paying it off for the next 200 some years.
Yeah.
So Chatham University, you're gonna get your money eventually. I promise. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, but
So, did you stay up in Edinburgh after you went there, or did you end up moving? You moved down here and went to Chatham. Was that immediately after? Or?
no.
Okay.
There was 10 years between
Okay.
my undergrad and my graduate.
Gotcha.
So I stayed up to Edinburgh for another year.
Yeah.
I was a bit of a drinker.
Okay.
I was an art student.
Yeah.
And with art students come creativity.
Sure.
Well, creativity, you know.
Yeah.
And so I lived in a room that had 6 bedrooms and 9 roommates.
Okay.
And so when you live with 8 guys and 1 girl,
Yeah.
who is more or less like one of the boys,
Right.
everybody wants to go to the bar every night.
Right.
And so if you want to have if you want to have like a night off, guess what? Vern wants to go out.
Right.
Oh man, you know it's Sunday at 3:00. You know what? Scott wants to go out.
Right.
And so every time that we try to take a day off, we wind up getting more smashed. And so I stayed up there for an extra year.
Yeah.
I kind of putzed around the print design lab, talked to my teachers. You know, just kind of did like the whole post college, don't want to grow up thing.
Yep.
Moved back here to Pittsburgh. Worked at FedEx office for. Well, back then it was Kinko's.
Yeah.
So to show my age, it was Kinko's back then.
I remember Kinko's.
Oh man, that was a job. Funny story is that the person the person I buy my print from at FedEx office up in Cranberry
Yeah.
was my manager in Monroeville
That
Ni-
long ago.
18 years ago.
Yeah.
It's crazy how people enter your life, leave for 10 years, and then they're back in your lives. So,
Yep.
lesson learned: be nice to everybody because
Absolutely.
you never know when they'll come back, and it's just good to know them.
Yep.
Because you'll never know how they'll benefit you, how they'll benefit you later on.
Absolutely.
Pittsburgh is a small city,
Mm-hmm.
and I see the same people. Oh my God, every day, pretty much.
We all know
you
each other.
Oh my God, yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah, so I came out of Pittsburgh, worked at FedEx office for a little bit, worked at Colonial Design. I was a signage designer
Okay.
there, graphic designer, just kind of did whatever I could do there. Made some really cool things there. That was a fun job.
Yeah.
Taught me how bad I truly am.
Mhm.
You know, because one of the things that happens when you graduate college and like your professors give you A's is that you begin to believe that you're that good.
Oh yeah.
And so then you get your first job and everyone's like, what the fuck were you thinking?
Right.
Can I swear?
You're right.
All right, cool. So everybody was like, yeah, we need you to like up your game. And I'm like, my game's like rocking. What are you talking about? You guys suck. And then, I mean, I was an unabashed asshole.
Yeah. I mean, happens to the best of us.
Right. And so I learned my lesson quickly, you know. Wound up leaving there, went to Minuteman Press, got involved in printing stuff and everything. I was like the senior designer there.
Okay.
Learned about printing, offset printing, and like that sort of thing, and kind of learned how to basically just put ink on paper. Mm-hmm. FedEx office, well, Kinko's back then, it still is just like digital printing, and it's like pressing buttons. Yeah. And so there really is no skill in that, you know. Yeah. Like you can
now
learn.
Back then, they had actual photocopiers that would develop and copy, like it had to scan each one.
Not in my office. Okay. No, we had Xerox and Canon. Yeah. Press start, and the machine does all the work. Yeah. Okay. We didn't calibrate anything. Yeah. Kind of why they got bought out. Right. They were just bad at what they were bad at what they were doing. Basically, that's why they were failing. So. Right. And so Minuteman Press, worked there, learned how to do like traditional printing and everything, and that's kind of where I kind of got involved in the whole ink and stuff and that kind of thing, and then worked there for a couple years, fell backwards into teaching. Okay. Design teacher, way too young to be a teacher. I was 24 when I started. Oh wow. My students were 21. Yeah. It's hard to control a class. It's hard.
Eat you alive.
I mean, it's easy to be the cool teacher. Right. But it's hard to be the cool teacher that actually wants respect. Yeah. So you kind of get like, you kind of got to play the teacher as like, hey, you know, I'll, buy you a 40 if you do this for me, you know. And so did some unsavory things, and just kind of, it's a different life. Right. I've grown up since then, learned my lessons in some ways. So, but from then, just kind of got involved in printing and everything, and so. Worked at a printer up in Erie. I moved to Erie a couple of years ago, and then I moved back since then. But I was a printer up there, digital press, ESCO digital die cutting stuff, and just kind of did that kind of thing awesome. There. Yeah.
And now you're here in Pittsburgh, and what do you do here?
Here in Pittsburgh, I'm a designer for the Printing Industries of America, and so we are a nonprofit trade group, and we handle a lot of the questions that printers have. And so if a printer has a question about what press should I buy, like I'm looking to invest $10 million. I need to capitalize on this market. What should I do, and then how should I buy it? Right. And so we kind of help them out in the decisions of like, well, this is like what your target audience is. This is what people want. We're an unbiased group, so like we can't tell them specifically what like brand to buy, right? But we'll say these features are what's popular, and you guys can make that decision based upon what we tell you.
Right, and you have data to back all that up.
Yeah. We have an economics department that we kind of analyze people's their financial standings. Yep. We'll see where they made the most money, what was their biggest month for sales in certain categories and everything, and so we'll kind of go through their marketing verticals and then figure out what will be the best feature for them basically. Right. We have a safety, we have an environmental health and safety place there, so we go on audits for OSHA, and so we'll kind of test their facilities to make sure that they apply by all the OSHA audits and they do everything right. Gotcha. And so
good to have that preemptive.
Oh my God, yeah, we have saved people's companies millions of dollars basically just by going through and just giving them kind of like a mock audit and making sure that they have like everything kind of figured out. We also deal with people getting injured on like the job too. We have a person that handles that kind of stuff, so they'll go through and tell them what to expect whenever someone like loses a hand, or if they fall into a press, or if they fall into a packaging machine. Like people die printing, which is kind of scary.
Right. I mean, it's a lot more rare now than it probably was 100 years ago.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have records back then.
Right.
But from the 50s, we're 100 times better right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But just from that, just kind of, I work in the marketing department, and so we do conferences. We do 5 conferences a year, and then we attend print shows that are in Chicago.
Okay.
And so we do that kind of stuff. We have a printing award program that people can submit their best printing stuff, and then we have judges from like across the country judging things. And so we get things from all over the world. We have people from China, Japan, the Ukraine. We have Israel. Qatar is a big player there. Yeah. And people submit projects that these books are phenomenal. I mean, there is things that I never would have imagined that like could happen. I mean, pages that just go on for miles. They hand glue every page together, or like printing that is on like just like a microfilm that's like inlaid with like paper and everything, that they like tear the paper in half and then they like do that kind of stuff. It's just incredible. Yeah. It's definitely wild.
That's amazing. So you're working with them, and then what else do you do?
Photography.
Okay.
I'm a photographer. I kind of after college, I always thought about being a photographer. Never really took it seriously. Yeah. Got a lot of friends who really did well with it too. Like, made it to the level of like Andy Warhol level. I mean, they're in the stratosphere right now. They're doing great.
Right.
And so I always looked at them and said, like, I respect their craft. I think I have something to say, and I could take some pictures about things that I like.
Right.
And so I never really took it seriously. For like 10 years, I just kind of thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. Never really did like anything about it. And so I ran into some money, and I bought my first camera. And this was 2 years ago, actually. Like 2.5 years ago. So I've only been doing it for like 2.5 years.
Gotcha.
A lot of it though, I've had the ideas for like a lifetime. Just finally getting it done.
Okay.
And it took some negative times in my life to really want to do something to kind of help myself.
Gotcha.
And so the photography came out of a negative experience, and so it just made me feel better. Yeah. And so I just wanted to do something to make me feel good. I didn't realize it at that time. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I mean, it got me outside. It got me walking around. It got me meeting new people. Right. Having brand new adventures and getting involved in the community in ways I never thought before.
What do you think about the community in Pittsburgh, the arts, creatives?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a growing community. It's always surprising me. A lot of my friends are they are musicians, and for years and years and years I heard Cleveland's a place to be. Cleveland has music. And finally I'm starting to hear Pittsburgh is a place to play music. Pittsburgh is a place to be like an artist. Right. And there's a lot of people that are coming up from Pittsburgh, not just musicians, but like photographers, painters, artists, that traditional animators. They're really becoming somebody great. Right. The artist community in Pittsburgh is incredibly supportive. It's something that I never really thought would even be be viable to be a part of, basically. Right. I meet people in the weirdest places. Like I met you at the Raw Art Show. Right. And you gave me your business card. Yeah. And then I wanted to get something printed, and so I called you. It was like 2 months later, and you're like, bring it down. And so I went to a revival, and then we got it printed, and here I am, like 2 years later, basically.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I mean, I met so many people doing that same thing. Just people I meet through photography, through drawing and art and everything, and the community. Not just Pittsburgh, but like people that are visiting here from like Delaware. Like I know a lot of people that are from Philly that are just incredibly supportive of the Pittsburgh arts.
It's amazing.
And it's just you meet people that you would never know, that like you would never have the chance to meet them. Right. And so when you get involved in the community within the arts. Not just going to shows and not just going to art shows, but really like participating in like board meetings and kind of like going to like the random art gallery opening that you would never think, just kind of try something new.
Right.
You'll meet people that you'll see again at like a Raw Art Show, or you'll see them at like another gallery, and a lot of people that teach at the art institute, that teach at the schools here, they're all involved there too. You're gonna meet them again, and making a good impression, being altruistic, and just being happy and just being kind to them goes like a long way.
Absolutely.
And so if you can be one of the support beams of that culture, it just makes the world a better place. It just makes the community in Pittsburgh just a better place to live.
Absolutely.
And so for a while, I was the traditional designer, basically. Like I was just behind the computer,
right?
Emailing, going on like message boards, trying to find work, going there.
Yeah.
I always never thought I was good enough to go out there and meet people and like shake their hand and say I'm a designer.
Right.
But then just if you're gonna go and do it, just do it, and just go out and have fun with that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So for people that this might be the first episode they're watching, and they might not know a little bit about me, I just want to clue them in on, first off, why this is a great guest to have on the show, but also, just a little bit of my background. So I started printing when I was 16 and worked at a neighborhood print shop. When I was 18, I started my own business, screen printing. The place I had worked at for 2 years, they had copiers, they had offset, and they had screen printing. So I started out with design at 16.
Mm-hmm.
When my first day interview, they were like, "Hey, do you know Corel Draw?" It was a Friday. I'm like, "Yes, I do." And they're like, "All right, cool. Can you start Monday?" And I literally spent 48 hours figuring out Corel Draw because I'd never even heard of it.
Right. Yeah.
And then I went in and I looked like I knew kind of what I was doing. And for a 16-year-old, I think I BS my way through it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I was slowly kind of buying the pieces, taking some screens home, and figuring out kind of how to do it. And then I had an order that paid for the shirts, or they paid for the press.
Mm-hmm.
$400 order. Press was like a couple $100. Bought a little machine.
Right.
And took the order before I had the press, kind of thing.
Right.
And but it all worked out.
Right,
He was willing to wait like 2-3 weeks. We printed it out. He loved them, and so I started that kind of in my garage. It got to a point where I was working for 3 different print shops. They were all kind of friends, family.
Okay. Right.
And and then I started doing my own thing. My dad let us kind of shack up in the garage.
Nice.
And we did that for 3 years. Moved out, got a bigger place. 2 years, moved out, bigger place, and then it was my brother and I at that point. We sold it, moved out to Pittsburgh. That was out in Southern California.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so printmaking has always kind of like been in my blood. I've enjoyed manufacturing. I don't know what it is because it's not something that makes a ton of money, but it's something I enjoy working with my hands, seeing the pieces get done, but I'm also artistic.
Yeah.
I consider myself an artist, photographer, printmaker is probably the biggest way, at least currently. And being able to use all those attributes together, I think makes the art that I do a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then moved to Pittsburgh 7 years ago. My son, his name is Shark, and
That's an awesome name, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. He's great. And he is 4 now, and when he was born, I became full-time stay-at-home dad. And I'm like, well, I got to make some money.
Right.
Bought a little desktop laser printer. I started telling everyone I was doing printing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it went from screen printing, which is apparel, to just a little laser printer. The quality was good. It was super slow.
Right. Yeah.
It killed me, but it got me. It got me where I needed to be. That I killed that thing. It should have lasted like 5 years. I killed it in 6 months, and then bought my first Xerox and kind of went from there.
Was it like a single cheater press?
What's that?
A single screen press that you had?
No.
And so it was
the one I had when Shark was born. It was just a little desktop HP laser printer.
Oh wow!
And this is just like it was like for a home office.
Yeah.
It was the quality was decent. Like it was competitive with but it only did 8.5 by 11, and I think I could get like a 9 by 12 in there.
Right.
Just,
Yeah.
like, kind of slip it through.
When you're printing to the edge there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it worked for for what I needed to work for.
Right on.
And I only took the jobs I knew I could handle. I was able to do business cards. I was able to do, whatever it was. A lot of brochures, a lot of like copies, and I did free delivery. I was doing it on my apartment, so I did free delivery. I had the kid with me.
Right.
And,
free delivery for a printing service.
Yeah. Why not?
Oh man,
I
nice.
didn't want anyone to have to come to my apartment, so it was super cheap, and it gave me something to do.
Right on.
And so with the way you're talking, the print meeting, now we do small signage. I don't do any big signs, but I do small signs, any coroplast, foam core, banners, all that stuff. So, and I oversee a lot of the design. I don't do a lot of the design myself because it's just too time consuming. I have too much going on. Yeah. But definitely have the eye and understand how it all works. When you said I got out of school, I thought it was hot shit. And then I go and I'm working for the sign company and I realize that I'm not. That totally rung. Yeah. Because you realize spacing, sizing, colors, color balance, colors against each other. Right. It all plays a huge part when there's a sign and you have 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds to see it, and you need to know exactly what that is. Mm-hmm. You have to know exactly how to make that work. Right. Yeah. So it's amazing the science behind that, and like you can walk into a place and you're like, okay, maybe I don't know as much as I thought.
It was all the thought that goes behind it. Right. I was a creative person, so I can think of like the idea quickly. Sure. But it was the execution. It was, why did I decide that? Mm-hmm. That's what I didn't really know. Mm-hmm. It was like, this looks cool. Why do you like it? Well, because I like it. Right. Well, can you like quantify that or
break it down? Can
you qualify that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it just looks cool. Trust me. They're like, that's not going to fly here, man. Like, you got to present to clients. You got to say, it doesn't, you can't say it looks cool. Trust me. They're not going to buy that. Right. They're not going to give us $10,000 just because you say it looks cool. Right. And so, there's a lot of stuff where like you got to put like the thought into it and like all that background and like, like a simple sign, there's a lot of thought that goes into that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you probably know that more than me, is like how much, how it look in different atmospheres. Yeah. Like they want a flyer or, a sign, or where, what's like the lighting going to be? Is it like against the sun? Is it, like does the sun hit it directly? I mean, how's that work? And then, what's like the street like? Is it a fast traffic street? Is it like walking? I mean, all that stuff goes into how it's going to look.
How far away is it going to be?
Yeah, right. Yeah. How small can you make that logo? Exactly. So yeah. But all that stuff goes into it and everything. I didn't really realize until, kind of in some cases it was too late. You know, like you walk in there and like you have this chip on your shoulder and you think you're hot shit, and then you realize like, I could have saved a lot of arguments and like a lot of time talking myself up if I had just taken some advice. Yeah. And so kind of like putting yourself into their shoes, and like the biggest thing I could say that I've learned over the past couple of years with like designing and even like photography is like empathy. Mm-hmm. Just putting yourself into their shoes and kind of thinking about what do they want, and also like how do they picture this happening? Right. Because once you can think about what they want and like what their role is and everything and like kind of what they're going through, you can have a better idea as to how to treat them better and like how to really provide them with like the best product you can.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. When you're doing any type of graphics, advertising, marketing, thing like that, I break it down to two things. It's obviously communication, but it's also expectations.
Right.
And so there's expectations for yourself, expectations you have for someone else, and then there's expectations they have for you. And in a way, you want to be able to communicate what your expectations are, both for you and them, in a way that they'll understand.
Right. Yeah.
And if you can do that in advertising, you nail it.
Right.
And if you miss it, like I try to tell people, like if you're getting the same question asked 10 times a day, it's because there's some communication barrier that you're just not hitting.
Right.
And you need to figure out what that is, because we can make a sign that says something very clearly, so that, and then if that sign's not working, we can figure out why.
Yeah.
And go from there. So it's important. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overclutter things, but if you put everything in the right spot, you can make it work.
Yeah. So. would you say it's part of the designers and like the printer's role to like educate the person about what they're trying to do?
To some extent, I think that it depends on the customer and what it is they're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
I work with between 10 and 30 customers a day, and I can't give that type of service to every single one of them.
Right.
A lot of them know exactly what they're wanting, and they're able to come in and say, hey, give me this, and I'm fine with that. Obviously, we do that all day.
Yeah.
But I love working with customers when they say, hey, I have this idea. How do I do this?
Right.
And then I'm able to put my 2 cents in. This looks good. See what this. Give you 2 versions, and then here's why. You do your way. Totally happy to print that. But if you do it this way, here's why I would do it differently.
Right on.
And most of the time, they're able to, take that and be like, oh yeah, that looks great. Let's run with that. And and I have graphic designers that work with me, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll do something, and I'll be like, add a period, or add this, or add whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of make the whole thing flow as one package. So I think it's pretty obvious to see the stuff that we do design, the stuff that we that comes out of here. A lot of it does have a touch of whether it's me or someone that's working with me. You can see the end game and what they're trying to do. If we're able to touch it at all,
Mm-hmm.
make any sort of calls, then we try to do that. And I feel like we do that with entrepreneurs as well.
Right.
Not just on the graphic end and not just on the print end, but if it's someone that we see as kind of coachable,
Right.
or especially for me, and I've been an entrepreneur for 11 years now,
Yeah.
and so if I owe it, I have to pay it back because I have so many mentors myself,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if I see someone I like what they're doing, I have to try to do what I can to give them a leg up,
Right.
even if it's just one little thing of advice. And that's one of the reasons I do the podcast, is like, if I could compile a bunch of information together,
Mm-hmm.
and they can just listen to this while their phone's in their pocket or while they're driving or whatever, then they can, hear from not just me, but from someone else. Something might ring,
Mm-hmm.
and they realize why it is they're doing what they're doing, or how they can improve. And I might be able to reach more people than just one-on-one at my print shop.
Right. Yeah. 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 And I mean, doing this stuff. I mean, people want all the help. People need all the help that they can get.
Mm-hmm.
They may not know it.
Right.
They might not admit it to themselves.
Yeah.
But they'll listen to something, and then whether it's a day, a week, a month, a year, they'll realize, damn, that was right. That was like spot on, man. That was exactly what I needed to hear. I could take what I listened to back then, and then I could apply it now.
Right.
I can't even tell you how many times that has happened before, where I would hear something from like a podcast and then think, oh, that's cool, and then be like, well, that's their story, and then like the next day I'm like, holy crap, this is the same thing I'm going through, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like we're just paying attention more to what's happening about that kind of stuff. Like maybe because like we're like aware of it, we're just paying it. We're just picking up that part of the story.
Right.
Or if it's happened to us, and then we're just like, I can now navigate that problem with the utmost confidence.
Right.
So, I mean, there was a lot of times whenever I was starting out where I didn't think advice. I didn't take advice. I was bullheaded in what I was thinking about and everything, just trying to think, well, my ideas are the greatest, my ideas are the best. I don't know. I was kind of a weird kid, basically,
It's all right.
I was like an only child, so I mean, that's probably coming out right now, is that, it was my way or the highway, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, if I cried, I got what I wanted.
Right.
And so, like, that kind of stuff kind of led me to where I am right now and everything. And then it kind of took me a long time to realize that, like, asking questions is, like, the best way to not make mistakes.
Absolutely.
And so I made a lot of mistakes throughout my career. I made a lot of mistakes. Yeah. And as much as I took them to heart and everything and kind of took them personally, at the same time, it was like I learned not to take them to heart, because then you're just defeating yourself and everything. Yeah. And so you just want to like learn from what you're doing and everything, It's kind of like take advice and be the best. Right. Be the best person you can be, because it's always going to come back full circle,
With the psychology minor that you don't have credit for, So one of the things I was trying to say is that the expectations that other people have, if you can get that clearly communicated, that's obviously not just for a sign or a flyer, but if you can figure out exactly how you can, it's hard. One of the hardest things for graphic designers is to try to understand what the heck the customer is actually asking for. Because if you go through 1 proof, 2 proof, 3 proof, and then eventually they're like, what the heck does this person want? I keep doing everything they say,
right? Yeah.
But it's clearly not what they're not able to express it. So I'm curious. You said, coming out of college and your first few years being bullhead and everything. Do you think that if you were able to hone in on that skill of understanding other people and why they're giving you advice, obviously people want to see you succeed and they want to see you get better.
Yeah.
And I'm not hounding you or anything, but to people that might be listening and considering why they might be interested in taking that value from other people, do you think that the people that are trying to give that value could express it in a way that's more a better delivery, if that makes sense?
That's a 2-part question.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. The first part is to go down to really why you don't want to take advice. And to me, I was afraid of failure.
Okay.
I was afraid that if I took advice, it would be admitting to myself that I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to confront that possibility.
Right.
After a while that I accepted the fact that, I might not know as much as I think I do.
Yeah.
Let's just kind of take advice and just see where it goes.
Sure.
From that point forward, it's like I was off to the races. I was just going straight. And being able to accept failure through yourself is one of the biggest challenges a person has to overcome.
Absolutely.
Because it's something that, we're all, especially as Americans, we're all trained to believe that we're the best country, we're the best people,
right.
Pittsburgh's the best city.
Yeah.
That's a little bit undeniable, but but I mean, we're all brought up to believe that you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And when you're confronted with the idea that maybe you can't, maybe you have to take a back seat and let the other person drive for a second, and then you learn something new, and you're like,
and then you can maybe,
yeah. Right,
or
yeah. So I think that a majority of it is how you interpret what they're saying. Are you able to accept the fact that you need the advice?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think that they actually need the advice. They think that they might know what they're doing and they might have this idea and this vision,
right.
and then the other person's at fault because they're not quite getting it.
Right.
That's their problem.
Right.
But one of the things that I learned throughout myself, throughout being a teacher as well, is if a student's not getting the lesson, it's not their fault, it's your fault.
Right.
It's the teacher's fault.
Absolutely.
And so if a student's not learning, how can the teacher redirect or interpret something else or kind of provide it in a different way? Part of being a teacher is knowing how people learn.
Yeah.
And so if you can either put it into, if it's an audio learning, if they are better at,
right.
Just listening to somebody, or a podcast listening, or are they better at taking notes?
Right.
Are they better at reading it? How can the person giving the advice cater to their needs?
Right.
Now that's very time consuming, and everyone's different, so it's not going to work for every single case.
Right.
And you kind of need to have a degree in an advanced degree,
right.
to really understand that kind of stuff.
Got it.
For example, whenever I was in grad school, my first semester I did pretty poorly. I didn't do very well, and then I realized that I need to take notes during class and then rewrite the notes at home to really get the full effect.
Right.
And so once I understood how I learned and everything, it took me until I was 35 years old to really understand how I could learn.
Right.
Before that I was just listening, know, but I was just hearing and I wasn't listening, and so it's on to the person that's given the advice. How can they change their message? Maybe it's the fact of maybe it's the fact that they just can work with the person,
Right.
maybe it's the way they're toning their voice, basically. You know,
Sure.
like tone is a big thing.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's like body language. You know,
Right.
if they're standing over you like this, you know, with their arms crossed,
Yeah.
they're not very inviting.
Right.
You know, if you
Right.
if you sit down with a person and then kind of, you know, you're on like the level, you know, the even eye level, it's a more of like a one-on-one, more of like a personal experience, as opposed to like the boss standing over your shoulder saying, no, do that, no, no, no.
Right.
You know, and so just reinforcement, positive reinforcement.
Right.
You know, even though they might not be learning
Mhm.
as much as you would like,
Right.
just saying, you know, just every day saying you're doing great. You know, I
Right.
know it's a struggle. I was there too. Like, let them into your world
Yeah.
and just be personal about it.
Yep.
You know, like
Yep.
knowing the person, knowing who they are is the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Like when I teach a class,
Absolutely.
I'll tell them where I'm from, you know, how I went to school,
Yep.
how I failed,
Yeah.
like, because I don't know if they do this, but like they might look at their teacher and say, who's this guy trying to teach me this stuff? What, you know,
Right.
why does he know this shit?
Right.
And I have to listen to him.
Exactly.
If I can tell them how I failed and then how I built myself back up,
Mm-hmm.
that's a better situation. They might respect that more.
Right.
They might think this guy's a failure, but that's how they think. I can't
Yeah.
control how they think,
Right.
but I can control
Makes you
how
more approachable.
it does.
Right.
Yeah, I'm known as a teacher to be very approachable.
That's good.
People come to me with like a lot of their troubles that they have at home,
Yeah.
and so a lot of that time, like I try to be as best I can within boundaries, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
I feel like we have a lot of similarities
Mm-hmm.
on that with where I have my business. I have 3 people on my team every day,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, I try to, if someone isn't doing things exactly the way that I want them to, I put that on myself. It's my fault that I didn't coach them correctly, or I didn't explain it. So if I need to figure out another way, if I need to actually make a manual so that they have it and they can refer to it.
Right.
I've done that in the past with my old business. I haven't
Mhm.
done it here. And if I have to, you know, take them aside, sit down with them. But a big part, like what you said, is figuring out who they are, like kind of what drives them.
Mm-hmm.
If obviously with a classroom, you may not be able to take the time to do that with every student, but obviously me and my team of 3, I can do that and pull people aside. Not everyone wants money. Not
Right.
everyone wants a ton of money. I mean, everyone needs some money, but you know, people want to be at a place that's fun and
Right.
that they're respected. And I mean, every single day when people that work with me are done, you know, I thank them. There is that positive reinforcement, and I try my best not to be, you know, just towering over everyone and
Right.
stomping my feet. I want to work with them, and there was, you know, last week or this week actually, one of my main printers, he's just like, hey man, these 9-hour days are killing me, because there's, you know, issues will come up with the printer. If people think they have problems with their printer, like
Mm-hmm.
you have a printer that costs you $30 and it's giving you trouble. We have the same problems with our $48,000 machine. It's just that much more of a problem.
Yeah.
And then when things happen, they happen harder.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's you know, it's customers. It's you know, there's a push and pull. I know things. You know, I have relationships with these customers for the past 4 years. So when they come in and they're like, hey, I want 10 copies of this, I already know what kind of paper they want, what
Right.
size it is, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so they, you know, I try not to be like, oh, didn't you know that this was what? How would you know? How would you like, that wasn't written down? You don't know this customer
Right.
gets this or that. So I have to be involved in the circle, and I have to make sure that it's not just me pushing too much on them.
Right. Yeah.
And expecting too much from other people.
Yeah.
So it creates there's a little bit of a push and pull sometimes, especially
Yeah.
it's been a huge growth for me. The first 2 years of this business, I didn't have anyone working with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's coming from a place where my other print shop, I had my brother and we were partnership, so there was always the 2 of us, and then we had a various amount between 1 and 3 other people helping out at a time. There's a lot more hands-on with screen printing. You actually have to pull your squeegee. We had an automatic machine. You actually load and unload the shirts. someone at the end of the dryer folding them.
Right.
So there's blowing out the screen. It's a lot more of a process, a lot more physical.
Right. Yeah.
With paper printing, you just need one person to do the action. Everyone else, graphic designer. I have another person that is, doing invoicing, customer service, cutting stuff down, making deliveries, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And it's amazing once you have a team, it all kind of clicks and works out. But it's been a huge growth for me to redevelop exactly how I want everyone to work together. And when it is just one person and me and them, and okay, well, I'll do the graphic design, you do the printing, I'll do the invoice. So then there's another person splits off, and we can kind of break that down a little more.
Yeah.
And it's just growth, and it's sometimes it can happen all at once. Sometimes it takes a while.
Right.
4 years in, I'm finally hitting the point where things are making a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. Go ahead.
Well, touching on that, I mean, wouldn't you think that? Well, don't you think that I think that trust is a big issue there.
Absolutely.
And so. With me working with somebody else, you have to trust them to do their job and trust them that they'll make the right decisions.
Right.
Absolutely. Micromanaging someone gets everybody nowhere.
Right.
And so I really think that letting go of that trust, letting go of that control, and then initiate accepting the trust of somebody else.
Huge.
It's a scary thing. It's very scary to say, here, this is your job. I trust you to do this at the best of your capabilities. And then you're just hoping in your mind, don't fuck up. You know?
2 out of 3 have keys.
Yeah.
And the other one that doesn't, it's not because I don't trust him. It's just because his hours don't make it, so he needs them. If he needed them, I'd give them to him.
Right.
So,
yeah.
That level of trust, saying, here's the keys. It's your, it's yours,
right.
but it's yours to manage. It's
right.
yours to be here.
Yeah.
Say, you're going to be here when you say you're going to be here, and it's important, and it's important not to get too emotional when it doesn't work out, because especially for me, I have never hired someone off the street. It's always been people that I've known or people that have referred to me or. Somehow, I mean, Pittsburgh's a small city, and everyone kind of knows everyone. So even, at a time where it might be someone that I don't know that well, at least there's always someone around that might know them, and I can ask, hey, what do you think of this person? Or,
right.
And so it's very easy to, you have a friendship with them, you go out with them. It's not just work, and so it can be hard to cut it off.
Right.
And so I've had employees. And this has happened multiple times, where I get too romantic with the idea of, this is my employee, this is my, this is how it has to be, and they might fall short and fall short and fall short, and you have to be able to make that business decision. And
right.
Say, this is hurting my business. I can't have this,
and
cut it off a lot sooner than I have in the past.
Right. Yeah.
Because I've let things go on for months, and it's like. All right, that was a bad decision, and I definitely burned a couple bridges by doing that. And you need to make sure that your customers and your businesses take precedence.
Right. Hopefully they'll understand that it's a business decision,
right.
not a personal one.
Right.
Like you aren't attacking their character.
Correct.
You're attacking, you're protecting your business.
Correct.
And your interests, because this is what you built from the ground up.
Exactly.
You don't want it to suffer because of someone else doesn't really want to.
Right.
Doesn't have the same vision.
Exactly.
And so it's not a personal decision. It's a business. It's a business decision. When you include friendship in that, it's a whole mess. It's more often than not.
It can very much.
When you react with your emotions, then that becomes a convoluted mess, and then you forget what the real reason why you're talking is.
Right.
You messed up. Well, why are you attacking me? I'm attacking you. I'm attacking the problem.
Right.
And sometimes it's not.
Right. And you're not able to bring things up, or you're not able to just wait until they leave and redo it. And
yeah, I mean,
that's not good.
In some ways, being an employee of somebody can be close to being in a relationship.
Yeah.
If there's not open and honest and authentic communication, it's just gonna break down from the day one.
Absolutely.
If they don't trust to tell you anything, and you can't confront them like their issues,
Right.
nothing's going to work out.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that goes the way with customers as well as with, you know, all the employees they have within your life and everything.
Right.
You know, I mean,
It's amazing.
yeah,
It's amazing how it all works and works together. And
yeah.
I mean, every relationship: trust, honesty, respect,
Mm-hmm.
communication, and expectations. Those first three can't have one without the other. If you don't trust them, you're not going to respect them.
Right.
You're not going to be honest with them, and
Exactly.
vice versa.
Yeah.
And then that communication and expectations, if you can draw out exactly what they're expecting of you, and you're able to communicate what you want from them and what you're expecting from you, like it full circle works really good if all parties agree.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
it's rare.
That's the hard part, is
Right.
getting all parties to then
Right.
agree
Exactly.
on that commonality.
Right.
That's where it differs a lot.
Yeah.
And so as much as you think that you're being open and honest as you can, they might think the opposite.
Right.
And so whether that's something that happened 10 years ago,
Right.
like, you know, I've done business with the people that I've held on to a grudge.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it's like, you made me
Yeah.
pay for beers when I was in college.
Right.
And so, like, you
Right.
know I was broke, but you still made me pay.
Right.
And so that followed me around. And it just, you know, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you got to learn to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
And just assimilate the changes, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
Wise words from a very wise man.
Likewise. So where can we find you?
They can find me on Instagram
Okay.
at johnhall.photography.
Okay.
That's JONHALL.photography.
Cool.
There's other Jon Hall with JOHN. He is he's somebody else.
Okay.
Not
you.
Not me.
Okay.
He has more followers, so the one with the less followers, that's the one you should be following.
For now.
So,
People listening in a couple of years, you don't know.
In a couple of years, there's gonna be, you know, thousands of followers.
Right.
But they're all fake though. So, so you know, I mean, it's So find me on Instagram. I'm working on a Facebook page. It's a year in the making. It's been
Watch out.
It's been private for a year now, so eventually I'll have enough time to kind of figure that one out. It's a good problem to have too much work.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
to go home and not be able to work on your own stuff because you're doing other things that pay bills.
Champagne problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh
I
man.
have it too. We slowed down for a couple of days in here, and we were like, "Oh man, I think we caught up."
You're
And
right.
then, nope.
No.
We come in the next morning, and we're like, "No,
No
we didn't
way.
catch up."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, you know, that's a good problem to have, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm on. Yeah, that's it. I don't do Twitter at all. I probably should, but
I haven't had the best of luck on Twitter. I haven't.
no.
I just use it to like post my thoughts and stuff. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, here's a little haiku.
I used to post stuff that I don't know. You know, like I was having a good meal, and
Yeah.
I would post. I was like one of those people,
Okay.
and 0 likes. No one cared. So I'm like, well, I don't care to post either. So
Right.
let's just
Let's not do this.
right. And Twitter is a landmine. It's a landmine field basically. So it's turning out to be that way.
Yeah. Seems to be.
Yeah. So Instagram and the Facebook is where I'm gonna be.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, keep up on it. Check out the photos. Keep an eye out. You post your flyers and any events that you do. Post that up there.
Instagram.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. This has been Thoughtful Discussions.